So we're going to go over a few deep learning concepts and traditional neural network concepts. So traditional learning versus ML versus deep learning. Traditional learning is when we have data and we have rules and we produce an output. ML is we have data, we have the input, and we have the output, and the machine learns what the rules should be. And deep learning is automatic feature extraction, where you don't manually tell the model what the features are, but it automatically detects on certain features. This is extremely common when you're doing facial recognition or any type of image detection where you're trying to detect certain patterns in the images, such as lines, texture, edges, and various different shapes that define what the particular image is that you're trying to classify. Weight initialization is extremely important. If you initialize all of your weights to be zero, that that is not a fixable problem. You can't adjust the learning rate, you can't train for more iteration. Having zero weights in your layers is not fixable problem. So that is why you want to make sure that all of your weights are sound and reasonable and they follow a proper structure and systematic guideline. You want to make sure your variance of the input layer of the inputs is equal to variance of the outputs. If you have, for example, making sure your initializations are 0 and it's 2, this is going to lead to very large values. So these leads to exploding gradients when they multiply back through the layers. So you want to make sure your variance of the inputs equals the variance of the outputs. Neural network architecture. We have our input layer, then we can have many of these hidden layers, and we have a final output layer. If you do have a binary classification problem, that is typically use sigmoid for the final activation function. If it's multi, then it's softmax, which normalizes all of the outputs to a vector of probabilities between 0 and 1. Logistic regression is akin to linear regression in the sense that instead of having just a y equal to beta was beta 1x, we actually have the log odds equals beta 0 plus beta 1x. All right, gradient descent scaling is incredibly important. If you have features of widely different scales, that is going to dominate your gradients, and they're going to be very unstable, and they will be like a zigzag. Learning rate is a hyperparameter that we tune in gradient descent. If you have too large of a learning rate, that you may overshoot the minimum and it may never converge and may diverge. Too small of learning rate, you may get stuck in a local minimum and it may take many iterations for it to converge. Hyperparameter search options. We have grid search, which exhausts all of the different possibilities, all of the different combinations. This is, you want to do grid search when you have few number of possible parameter configs, and also you have pretty good compute power. Random search gets the random configurations from the possible list of configurations. It is typically ideal when you have a large set of configurations you want to try. You don't have that much compute to actually go through each every single combination. Hyperband is a technique where you allocate the resources to each configuration. So what you do is you have different brackets. You start off with allocating like a very small number of resources to a large number of possible configs. So you may train 80 fake configs, and each of them may be for one epoch, and then you eliminate all the ones that did extremely terribly in the training. And then you eliminate, we have a call reduction factor. You may eliminate a third of if you eliminate a third of those, get 27, 9, and 3, and then finally one configs, and the fewer number of configs you have, the longer you train. So this is an exploration problem here as well, where you're trying to identify which of these best possible configurations do we want to train for the longest, while making sure that we remove the unnecessary ones that don't perform well. Dropout is when you initialize, or dropout is the rate at which the random rate at which the neurons get deactivated in the neural network. This is used for regularization to make sure we are not overfitting. And in dropout, one of the key things to know about in dropout is if, even when these neurons are actually deactivated during back prop, they still get updated. So the weights are still updated even during back prop. They are not frozen in the sense that you don't update the weights or biases. You just deactivate them in the forward pass, but then when you backward pass and you do back prop, you still update the weights and biases, such that when you do get to new iterations, if they are not selected, to be deactivated, you can still use them for your forward pass. CNNs, concepts here, pooling, max pooling, useful for spatial invariance. So spatial invariance refers to the idea that if we were to shift the image, or if we were to tilt the image in a certain way, or have a distortion of the image or a slight change in the image, our model will still be able to detect the major feature and the major outline of what that image is representing. So pooling captures the major features of the feature map. Typically we use max or average. It's typically max is typically standard. Fewer filters, so filters are used to identify features. And when we run a filter over the input matrix, we create a feature map, and that feature map refers to how prevalent that feature was in that part of the input image. And so typically in CNN layers, we typically have fewer filters earlier on to detect some of the finer details, some of the edges, some of the corners. And then as you get further on and deeper into the layers, you may add more filters to identify high level detailed patterns, such as faces. Padding is extremely important if you want to capture a lot of the corners. Data augmentation is when you shift or distort an image in a slight manner, where you change an image slightly such that your model is able to generalize better. The idea of shared weights is that we use the same filter across the entire input matrix. So we don't change the filter at all. We apply the same filter. So this filter, for example, could be used for detecting vertical lines. And we use that same filter across the entire input matrix. Across the entire input matrix. And that again, that determines the presence of that feature in each part of that input matrix, or each part of that input image. Early stopping refers to yeah, you don't want to continue to train forever. You want to prevent overfitting. So there is an optimal point where you get diminishing returns as you keep on training. So as the validation loss stops decreasing, so you may get something like, yeah, training loss is always going to decrease. You're always going to overfit the training set. But then when you have your validation set and when you train on that, you realize, okay, slowly decreasing. There's a point where you reach the min of your validation loss. And so that's the point where you want to stop training. We also have a min delta parameter because yeah, your model might improve, but it might not improve enough for it to be actually considered an improvement. So to get to an idea of what considers an improvement, we have min delta. If it improves by at least min delta, or if the validation loss decreases by at least min delta, we consider that an improvement. And we have this patience, which refers to how many number of iterations we want to wait until we stop the training and restore the weights of the best epoch. So overfitting, underfitting also applies here as well. We have many different techniques to mitigate that in CNNs, from pooling, shared weights, local connectivity, etc. L1, L2 regularization. Right, so ridge lasso regularization, also typical in regular ML. Now we'll go over VP3. So law 5, all about controlling the Indias and the anthocodone. So, but what makes a person honest reveals all these different flaws in the observance of five religious vows, perceived thoughts, and the seven doubts, and conviction of God. That's what makes one deceitful. Recognize deceit and pretense. Thoughts cause one to fall from the Three means controlling indriyas on the current. We have shastras and one's own thought process. Now, what controls which? Is it the physical indriyas or the undercurrent? Which one controls? Is it actually the physical indriyas that actually control the undercurrent? So we have manners to control both of these, but if you're able to control the physical indriyas, you can also control the undercurrent because the environment or how you indulge in the environment also affects your internal state. So that's the concept there. Purifying the company one keeps. What type of sadhus should you have the company with? What type of sadhus should you not have the company with? What the most difficult achievement in satsang is becoming economic to do with the bhakti of God. Also, what type of shastras should you keep company with and read? And even what to do. So when you keep company of God, even when God is displeased, you still follow dharma. So do not follow an order that seems full of adharmas. This is example of Krishna telling Arjun to cut off Ashwatthama head. Arjun did not follow because it was dharma, even though God was displeased with it. Arjun did not follow it. So that's the idea there. 6 levels of faith. Savika, Nirvika. So lowest is as long as God exhibits these qualities, these vicious natures, lust, anger, greed, egotism, the same extent other humans, and faith is absolutely shattered. Intermediate is even if it's double that, faith still remains. Faith still. Highest is like never doubting any action. Nirvika, we have lowest is impious deeds, understands to still be a non-doer. Intermediate, and then we have the highest, countless millions of Brahmans, mineral atoms of reduction. And lowest faith can develop highest faith, extreme Shraddha. Reverence and condemnation. All about who will actually fall from satisfying one believes oneself to be the body. Aversion for the Panchavishayas. And how do you develop aversion for the Panchavishayas? The three aspects to do so. Vartal section, 4 types of eminent spiritual people. We have Dharmagna, Vairagya, Bhakti, 4 qualities of Ekantic devotee. And even if only one predominates, bhakti coupled with the knowledge of God's glory is the best. And then we have the 4 types of eminent spiritual people. We have small flame, torch, lightning, and then the geothermal fire. So small flame extinguished by the wind in the form of the Vishas. Torch extinguished by stronger gusts of wind. Lightning not extinguished even in the rain, water in the form of light. Vartal 5, not perceive mind, God, similar service. Do not perceive human qualities or human traits in that of God or gods. So the destruction of Jeev, Sridhar says that extremely afraid of harming any of these 4, because when you harm any of these 4, the Jeev is also destroyed. Jeev is destroyed. If you harm anyone else, the body is destroyed, but the Jeev is not. But if you harm these 4, the Jeev is destroyed. So then the resolution is when one has intense affection, then one never perceives any kind of flaws. So here we have destruction of the Jeev. We also have the paradox. So you can think of the paradox as the destruction of the Jeev. The paradox is linked to the destruction, and then the paradox is Atma realization cannot understand glory. No glory cannot realize Atma realization. So intense affection for the Satguru. Never perceive any flaws. Gara 3 section, attainment of all Purushats. Worldly attachment persists due because of the inclination. Because of the inclination and disturbance during meditation. That is why worldly inclinations persists. Worldly affection persists because not firm affection, conviction, manifest form of God as non-manifest. Iron nail in the same way iron nail fixated in the iron. It can no way be abrupted from it, or no way can it be snatched or pulled away from the iron. Nothing is more blissful than God and the sun, and it's firmly attached to the God just as an iron nail is firmly attached. Firmly attached to a firmly affixed iron surface can never be separated. It can never be taken away. Eternally happy has all of these qualities, I guess, with the Brahmendriyas. Control, intense love, close friendship, but remains miserable, not controlling the Indriyas and the good. And so they have not gained control. That's the greatest obstacle, is not recognizing their own. So eternally happy, so control over Indriyas, miserable, even despite being in God's company, they don't have control. Gateway awareness is incredibly key analogy of King's Guard. They don't allow thieves or robbers to even come near the king. They're shielded. And so that is why one must constantly become alert and aware. And that awareness is the gateway to the abode of God. So if a King's Guard is careless, then thieves and robbers, they reach the king. And so due to this, if a devotee develops love for objects other than God, and then their bhakti is rendered meaningless. So have awareness, have control over the Indriyas. See that he did not perceive flaws in Ramchandraji. In the same way, you should not perceive flaws in God or Son. Magical technique. So perceiving do not perceive flaws in God or his book. Rabid dog touched by saliva becomes rabid. Right? If you kill countless Brahmin children, women, cows, can at some time be freed from those sins, but no sin, but you cannot be freed from the sin of perceiving flaws in God or his book. We have some of these other ones. So we have golden thread. Stream personal natures cannot develop any affection for anyone other than God or in the single thing devotees. Inclination is similar to all these past different devotees. He stays among thousands of people only for the sake of God and his devotees, not see the flaws of a devotee, but however much at fault they be. The same way that a golden thread remains the same in all 6 seasons. All 6 seasons. When one satsang is firm, mind never turns away from satsang. Right? Mind never turns away from satsang. Nothing can deviate that mind. 326 suppresses mind and indriyas, worthy of being worshipped on par with God. Only activities related to God. Staunch and observe 5 religious vows. They cannot be bound by the Panchavisays. The two dangerous flaws in understanding them, right? Having attributes of Atma realization, but thinking, I am absolutely detached from everything. Srinivas does not like ego, hypocrisy, who behaves loosely, takes a vow, observes occasionally, relaxes, likes thoroughly understands the glory of God despite these virtues, considers even a simpler devotee who has just faith to be great, themselves be insignificant comparison. So no ego, of nature of reality attached to one's Jesus, so on. Son. And we have the herbal medicine in the same way that Lord Hanuman got the herbal medicine for Lord Ramchandra. G, the medicine here is in the form of being attached to satsang and Atma realization and God's glory. So the arrows in the form of the India's desire to indulge the Vishayas were removed through this medicine. So only when they are true satsangi can the arrows of the root of the Indriyas can they be removed from the Vishayas and only rooted in God. And we have the no one can become like God, similar to the no one can become like Brahma Rakshar, become like Shiv Shukshi Nadaji, but no one can become capable of becoming like Purushottam. Same concept here in the herbal medicine. Go 326. So suppresses mind, indriya, suppresses actions, manas gun, predominant, dharma predominant, qualities as thick, too dangerous, flaws, understanding, major obstacles of observing dharma. It's not like ego, hypocrisy. Understanding God's glory. All right, we'll stop there.